I don't wanna chain you down, girl. I don't wanna see.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Tips and Tricks. Now today I'm going to be talking about an underspin hack for when you find fish shallow and schooling on baitfish. Now most underspins you see, and I think almost every underspin that you will ever buy, looks kind of like this. That's right, it comes with that little willow blade. Willow blade like this, or some sort of version of a willow blade. Well, the underspins, when they originally came out and when they hit popularity, that was when Casey used them during that classic win. And it was pretty much winter, it was cold water. So he was running the underspin down around the bottom, and he was kind of like putting on the bottom, kind of picking it up. And well, it had, the willow blade on it. And pretty much every single version you see of a underspin, whether it's a Sioux spin or a Strike King, I don't even remember what they call theirs, but every version of it usually comes with some sort of a willow blade on it. Well, CCB, we started creating our own underspins, and when I first got the underspin, I tried it out on Pinot. And Pinot is in fact a very shallow lake. I mean, most of where you're fishing is like 6 to 8 feet deep. Sometimes 4 to 6 feet deep. I mean, it's very shallow. And these underspins, they don't have much resistance. I mean, you're getting a resistance from usually on underspin. Well, sometimes you have the fluke you put on it, which has no resistance. But a lot of times you're putting on, a swim bait that has a paddle tail, has some resistance. But the underspin, but the willow blade itself on the underspin, it really, it has a lot of flash, but it doesn't have much resistance. So I was at Pinot, and that's when I first was developing our CCB underspin. And I'm like, yeah, but I kind of want to run it slower, and I kind of want to run it shallower. So the little hack, it's basically a modification, but nowadays, people call them hacks. It's a big thing to say a hack. It's basically a modification. But what I did was add a little Colorado blade to it. Because, my thought was I'm running really shallow, and I don't know, I just wanted to give it something that had some resistance, something that could keep it up in the water column, and something that I could kind of roll it a little bit slower, and maybe like give it some twitches and stuff, and not have to reel faster. Oh, this is a little 1/4 ounce that I have here. This is our CCB underspin. It has the bearing here, and it has, everything. And I have this is actually number 0. A little 0 Colorado blade. Now, the difference between willow blades and Colorado blades is the fact that Colorado blades, with that cupping and everything, they give a lot more resistance. That's why a lot of the nighttime spinnerbaits and other stuff that you see have a bigger Colorado, because it creates a lot of resistance, a lot of thump. And since this is only a 1/4 ounce, that's why I add the little number 0 Colorado blade to it. Now, if you go to a 3/8 or a 1/2 ounce, might want to jump up to a number 1, or maybe even a number 2 Colorado blade. But since they're wider and everything, you kind of have to keep track when it's spinning underneath it. If you get it too big, I don't know, it might kind of interfere. But like I said, I do this number 0 on it. And this is the way I did it, because I started fishing him in Pinot, which is a very shallow, and originally with the willow blade and everything, and Casey and winter, a lot of people were running these really deeper water just off the bottom. So that's kind of why I came up with this hack or modification to put a Colorado blade, because it does, when it starts falling, it falls slower. When you originally pick it up and start reeling it, because of the resistance of that Colorado in that, and the resistance of, if you have a paddle tail on it, it'll bring it up shallower in the column, and you can fish it a lot slower. And the first time I used this at Pinot, I actually caught 8 really nice keepers. I was just going around the edges, throwing it out and kind of slow rolling it with that Colorado blade. But then it comes to what I never really thought of. And that is using this when you get to shallow schooling fish. And by schooling fish, I mean, when you have a school of fish that are chasing shad and busting shad on top. Because usually, and what I was taught, when they're schooling on top, yeah, I mean, some people might try and run a rattle trap or something through them. But traditionally, people will throw a sort of walk the dog style bait on top of them. Like, you sit there and you're hunting topwater bass. All of a sudden, they start busting on the top. You throw that out. You start working the spook really quick. You're walking the dog. And it works. But I think this modification for shallow water schooling bass and bass that are chasing shad and that is even better. And I experienced this. It's in one of my videos. It's called Hunting Topwater Bass. It's at Anderson Lake. And I happened to come, and there was like 5 little sort of wolf packs of bass in this area. And every, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, they would come up and start busting him on top and chasing him. And I was like, oh my God, where's my spook, where's my spook? And so I went and looked, and I didn't have one. And I went, okay, oh man, okay, oh, what about the underspin? What about the underspin with the little hack and the Colorado blade? It keeps it up shallower, and I can throw it out, and I can hit them. And so I went to this, and I would just sit and wait. I mean, you can watch the video, and I explain it in the video. But I would sit and wait, and I would throw this thing. Like, second I started busting, I would throw it right on top. And I would let it sink. And I said, with this Colorado and that, it sinks a little bit slower. But second you click in gear, it brings it up. So I'd click it, I'd throw it right on them, I'd bring it up. And second I started, usually I'd have a hit. If I, and I missed it, and I started reeling it. And then I would, like, give it a twitch. And give it a twitch. And all of a sudden I would just get nailed. I mean, yeah, the top water and the spook on them. But this little underspin with this little hack with the Colorado blade for fish that are busting shad. Oh my God, it's freaking amazing. Every time they busted, every time I hit them on this thing and got it cast right on top of them, it was a fish. Just like instantaneous. And what I realized is with this blade on it and that, when you hit them and you start reeling it, you got to remember when they're busting them on top, yeah, getting a top water and starting to work it. They bust them right away, but then those shad scatter. And suddenly they go down about a foot or two under the water, and they start just like. And so when you're on top water, yeah, suddenly right where they're busting them, they're already on top, and they hit them, and then they scatter, and they go down. And so unless you get it right on, well, there's still a few on top of that. But if you can get something on them like this, with that blade on it that keeps it slower and keeps it within the column about 2 to 3 feet down, that's where the shad go, and that's where they're looking for them after the initial, like, hey buddy, go hit them and scatter them, and even if they hit one, they kind of injure it. And that's what with this hack with the Colorado blade does is once it hits and it starts dropping, obviously it drops slower. It's got this big paddle tail that's slowing it down, and it's got this Colorado blade that's slowing it down compared to the willow blade, which creates absolutely pretty much no resistance. A lot of flash, but no resistance. So you have this parachuting with this and that, and then you go. But the reality is, once you get it down there, and once you pop it with the resistance of the Colorado compared to willow that pretty much has no resistance, it twitches it sideways. So I'm bringing this thing in, and when I hit it, it's going, it's turning sideways when you're popping it. And a lot of those shad, when they're down there and they're scattering, and maybe some of them got hit and they're kind of injured, they're going to kind of go sideways. So, yeah, that's why I'm saying this little modification, putting that little Colorado blade to slow it down, and when you get schooling fish that are chasing baitfish, either usually shad, and it's the best little hack for just every time. And a lot of times I'd throw it on, I'd hit one, I'd miss it. And saying I'd pick it up, so I'd have another one would hit it, another one. And then in that in that video at Anderson, when I discovered this and I was throwing on them, a lot of times I'd bring it in, there'd be like 3 and 4 fish following that fish in. And they're all good fish. They're like 2.5, 3 pounds. It was, I mean, I don't know. I'll try and find it and put the link below in the description. But yeah, guys, this is a really, really good hack modification for an underspin to go shallow, and especially when they're schooling on baitfish and everything, is adding a little Colorado blade to it. Like I said, you can look at, none of them are sold with a Colorado blade on them. This was my own thing. It was just because I thought, you know, this would probably be better, and since I'm fishing a shallower lake and then I want to keep it shallower, and I don't want to have to like rip it in to keep it, and so yeah, I don't know, that's why I came up with the running Colorado. And then coincidentally, like a year later with that schooling, I found out that it works incredibly well on schooling shallow fish, but you got to put that blade on it to make it that much more efficient. There you go. Underspin hack for shallow water schooling fish. I hope this helps. Until next time.